from being jumped in Compton to now signing a pro contract to fighting in Atlantic City. What a journey.
I left without a scratch.
Chrisean Rock.
Chains, yeah.
But I mean, you're a gospel singer.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to fight for your life and defend yourself. So I wasn't going to lose my life, so I had to get to my car. Yeah.
That's a tough beginning to a story. You handled your business, and I respect that.
And I wanted to change it into something positive.
Nobody expected this energy shift. 1 minute the timeline is bracing for another episode of chaos, and the next minute Chrisean is talking growth, focus, and positive updates about Junior. If you blinked, you missed a tone change. And in this storyline, tone changes don't happen quietly. Because let's be honest, when her name trends, it's usually loud. It's dramatic. It's the kind of headline that makes reality TV look under-rehearsed. But this time, the volume dipped, the vibe softened. And the internet didn't know whether to clap or prepare for impact. Then came the twist. An unexpected blueface moment entered the chat like a plot device nobody saw coming. No warning, no spoiler alert, just enough surprise to make the comment sections combust. Is this growth arc season? Is this strategic piece? Or is this the calm before another headline hurricane? Either way, something shifted. And when narratives shift mid-season, you pay attention. The shift didn't arrive with fireworks. It came in calm senses. Chrisean speaking about growth, focus, and stability like the volume of her entire storyline had been turned down for someone whose public image has often been wrapped in intensity. That tonal change alone felt headline-worthy. When she mentioned Junior, the energy felt different, less reactionary, more intentional. The update wasn't dramatic. It wasn't framed as a defense against critics. It sounded centered. And in a narrative historically fueled by chaos, centered feels almost rebellious. Supporters leaned in immediately. They called it maturity unfolding in real time. They said motherhood has a way of shifting priorities in ways the public rarely understands. To them, this wasn't a publicity move, it was perspective growing under pressure. Critics, however, were not ready to hand out applause. We've seen calm before. Is this strategic timing? Is this image management? Social media doesn't easily trust transformation, especially when transformation interrupts a long-running pattern. But here's the thing, the Junior update wasn't flashy, it wasn't viral bait. It felt grounded, and grounded moments hit differently when your name usually trends beside turbulence. The conversation quickly evolved from gossip to analysis. Comment sections turned into debate forums. Some argued growth should be acknowledged when visible. Others insisted that growth is proven through consistency, not statements. And then came the unexpected blueface moment, not loud, not explosive, just present. A subtle interaction that immediately sent the timeline into investigative mode. Because when those two names appear together, audiences brace for impact instead. What surfaced felt measured, controlled, almost cooperative. And cooperative energy from a pair often associated with volatility. That's plot twist material. Memes rolled out instantly. Character development unlocked. Redemption arc loading. Season finale vibes. The internet never misses a chance to dramatize a shift in tone. But beneath the humor, there was genuine curiosity. Was this co-parenting progress? Was this a truce? Or was this simply a temporary alignment in an otherwise unpredictable storyline? The dynamic between them has historically driven engagement through intensity. So when intensity gets replaced with composure, it unsettles expectations. And unsettling expectations is powerful. Influencers jumped in with breakdown threads, tone analysis, timing theories, body language commentary. It felt like a sports panel reviewing championship footage. Except the game was public perception. Supporters highlighted Junior as the emotional anchor. When a child's well-being enters the center of conversation, optics change. Responsibility reframes everything. A focus on stability shifts the narrative from spectacle to seriousness. Critics countered that public calm doesn't automatically equal private transformation. They argued that history can't be rewritten by one measured moment. And while that perspective carries logic, it doesn't erase the possibility of evolution. The contrast is what makes this chapter compelling. From viral arguments to visible composure, from chaotic headlines to growth-focused messaging, that pivot isn't subtle. Public perception operates like a pendulum. It swings hard in both directions. When volatility dominates for long enough, even a glimpse of steadiness feels dramatic. What's fascinating is how quickly outrage softened into curiosity. Instead of immediate backlash, the tone shifted toward observation. People weren't dragging. They were watching. Watching is different. When audiences move from attacking to analyzing, the storyline changes. Curiosity creates suspense instead of hostility. Suspense sustains attention longer than outrage ever could. Blueface's unexpected presence added another layer of complexity. Was this mutual growth? Was this strategic alignment? Was it simply maturity surfacing publicly? The ambiguity fueled engagement. Because clarity ends conversation, ambiguity extends it. Industry watchers quietly pay attention to moments like this. Stability signals reliability. Growth narratives open doors. The entertainment ecosystem responds to tone shifts, but the pressure increases with every pivot. Once growth becomes the headline, expectations rise. Every future move will be measured against this calmer version. Consistency becomes the test. Supporters are hopeful. Critics remain cautious. Observers sit in the middle, waiting for patterns to form. And patterns are what ultimately reshape narratives. Right now, this feels like a pivot point, not a guaranteed transformation. Not a confirmed rebrand, just a noticeable shift in energy. The Junior update grounded the conversation. The Blueface moment amplified the suspense. Together, they reframed a storyline that once thrived on turbulence. Public journeys are rarely linear. Growth under scrutiny is complicated. Every step forward gets magnified. Every step backward gets replayed. But what's undeniable is this. The tone changed, and when tone changes in a high-profile narrative, the ripple spreads fast. This isn't just about positivity. It's about perception recalibrating in real time. If this steadiness continues, the narrative evolves gradually. If volatility resurfaces, critics will claim they predicted it. For now, the spotlight lingers in anticipation, not outrage, not celebration, just WATCHFULNESS. And watchfulness is where transformation either solidifies or collapses. Because in the world of celebrity storytelling, moments don't define legacies. Because once the Junior update settled into the timeline and the unexpected Blueface moment stopped feeling like a glitch in the matrix, the internet did what it does best. It dissected everything like it was studying for a final exam in Celebrity Psychology 101. Suddenly, everybody had a theory. Some people framed this as co-parenting evolution. They argued that maturity doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it shows up quietly, through small interactions and subtle tone shifts. To them, this wasn't dramatic. It was developmental. Others weren't buying it. They called it strategic optics. They said when narratives get too chaotic, public figures pivot toward calm to relevance perception. In their eyes, this wasn't emotional growth. It was brand maintenance. And that debate, it exploded. Memes multiplied overnight, side by side. Edits comparing past viral turbulence to this softer chapter flooded feeds. Captions read like streaming previews. New season, new energy. The internet loves a redemption arc, but it also loves predicting its collapse. Reaction channels ran with the storyline. Some praised the maturity angle, applauding the focus on Junior's stability. Others questioned whether the tone shift would last beyond a few headlines. Everyone had a microphone, and no one was whispering. The Blueface element intensified everything, because history matters. When two names have built a reputation around public volatility, even a calm interaction feels suspiciously cinematic. People leaned in hard, analyzing posture, tone, even the pacing of words. Was that respect? Was that distance? Was that calculated? The speculation spiraled. Supporters insisted that co-parenting doesn't have to be loud to be real. They argued that peaceful alignment deserves acknowledgement. They highlighted how focusing on Junior reframed the entire narrative. Critics countered that history can't be erased by a few composed moments. They reminded everyone of previous cycles where calm preceded chaos, and social media loves to say, "We've seen this before." The phrase growth era started trending in certain corners of the internet. But here's the twist: growth in celebrity culture feels almost unbelievable. We're conditioned to expect escalation. We're trained to anticipate drama. So when stability appears, it feels like a plot twist instead of progress. Podcast panels leaned into the conversation hard. Analysts discussed public redemption arcs in general. They compared this moment to other celebrity pivots that reshaped reputations over time. Some pointed out that public figures are rarely given space to evolve without suspicion. Others argued that trust has to be earned through repetition, not rhetoric. The dynamic between Chrisean and Blueface became the central focus. Was this mutual understanding finally surfacing, or was it a temporary ceasefire in an unpredictable saga? The ambiguity kept engagement high, because clarity ends discussion. Ambiguity fuels it. Meanwhile, the Junior update continued anchoring the emotional weight of the narrative. A child's well-being shifts tone automatically. It softens arguments. It reframes priorities. It reminds the audience that beyond the spectacle, there's responsibility. That responsibility element changed optics significantly. Industry insiders quietly observe shifts like this. Stability makes partnerships easier. Calm messaging opens doors. If this pivot sustains itself, opportunities adjust accordingly, but pressure increases simultaneously. Once audiences sense a possible transformation, they watch closely for consistency. Every future interaction will be measured against this calmer tone. Consistency becomes currency. The timeline moved from reaction to anticipation. Instead of dragging, people were waiting to see if this growth narrative solidifies or fractures. And that waiting creates suspense. Supporters celebrated the moment as proof that public figures can evolve. Critics reserved judgment, watching for patterns instead of proclamations. Neutral observers simply acknowledged the tonal shift. What makes this chapter compelling isn't explosive drama. It's restraint. Restraint from personalities often associated with volatility feels revolutionary, and revolution doesn't always roar. Sometimes it speaks softly. The unexpected Blueface moment didn't ignite chaos. It ignited conversation. And conversation sustains visibility without requiring conflict. This storyline now sits in an interesting space. Not chaotic, not fully redeemed, just balanced on the edge of possibility. The internet doesn't quite know how to handle balance. We're used to extremes. This feels like moderation. And moderation doesn't trend as loudly, but it lasts longer. If this energy continues, perception shifts slowly, gradually, not overnight, but enough to recalibrate how future headlines are interpreted. If volatility returns, critics will point back to this moment as a temporary detour. Either way, the pivot matters because for the first time in a while, the narrative isn't being driven by explosion. It's being driven by evolution. And evolution, especially in public, is messy, fragile, and fascinating. Now the spotlight isn't asking, what went wrong? As the dust from the initial reaction settled, something quieter but more powerful started forming. Consequence, not explosive consequence, not headline chaos, but perception consequence. Because when a storyline shifts from volatility to visible growth, the audience doesn't just react, it recalibrates. The Junior update became the emotional anchor of this entire chapter, when focus centers on a child's stability and well-being. The tone of the conversation changes automatically. The internet can argue about strategy all day, but responsibility reframes optics in a way drama never can. For Chrisean, this moment feels less like a loud rebrand and more like a gradual pivot. And pivots in public are tricky. They don't erase history. They don't cancel past headlines, but they do introduce contrast, and contrast forces people to rethink what they assumed was permanent. Blueface's unexpected presence complicated the narrative even more because their history is loud. Their dynamic has fueled engagement through intensity for years. So when the energy shifts into something measured, it disrupts expectation. Disruption creates suspense. Now the public isn't just reacting, it's watching for consistency. Every future move will be compared to this calmer tone. Every interaction will be dissected through the lens of, is this growth sticking? That pressure is real. Supporters feel hopeful. They see this as maturity unfolding under scrutiny. They believe that public figures deserve room to evolve without being chained to their worst moments forever. For them, this is less about image and more about intention. Critics remain cautious. They argue that growth is proven through pattern, not proclamation. They insist that one chapter doesn't define the series. And in fairness, that perspective isn't unreasonable. But here's what makes this moment different. The outrage meter isn't maxed out. The conversation feels layered instead of explosive. People are debating, not dragging. That tonal shift matters because when discourse moves from attack mode to analysis mode, narratives evolve. The audience becomes observant instead of reactive. And observation builds suspense without requiring scandal. Industry implications quietly follow. Perception. Stability is easier to monetize than volatility. Brands prefer predictability. Growth narratives open doors that chaos narratives close, if this energy sustains itself. Opportunities shift accordingly. Media framing softens. Headlines adjust. Interviews feel less combative. That's how gradual reputation rebuilding works. But it's fragile. Public growth under a microscope demands repetition. It requires calm consistency in moments where volatility used to dominate. It demands choosing restraint when reaction would trend ladder. The Blueface dynamic will remain central to that evaluation. If cooperation continues, the co-parenting narrative strengthens. If intensity resurfaces, critics will claim validation. The suspense now isn't about what happened. It's about what continues. And that's powerful. Because the internet thrives on predictability disguised as surprise. When chaos is expected, calm becomes the twist. When volatility defines a brand, steadiness feels revolutionary. Right now, this storyline sits in a balanced space. Not chaotic, not fully redeemed, just poised on the edge of possibility. The junior update planted the seed. The unexpected Blueface moment watered it. Now the audience waits to see if it grows or wilts. What's clear is that perception has shifted. Slightly, not dramatically, not permanently, but noticeably. Noticeable shifts are the beginning of narrative change. Public figures often struggle to escape established storylines. Once labeled chaotic, every move gets interpreted through that filter. Breaking that filter requires time and pattern. This chapter introduces pattern potential. If stability becomes routine instead of rare, the narrative recalibrates. The conversation moves from skepticism to cautious optimism. From here we go again to maybe something's different, and that maybe carries weight. Of course, nothing is guaranteed. Public journeys are rarely linear. There will be missteps, misunderstandings, and unexpected twists. But the tone of this moment feels distinct from past cycles. Instead of explosion, we're witnessing evaluation. Instead of outrage, we're seeing anticipation. Anticipation keeps audiences invested longer than chaos ever could. The spotlight hasn't dimmed, it's intensified, just differently. Now it's measuring consistency instead of counting controversies. For Chrisean, this could mark a turning point. Not because of one update, not because of one interaction, but because of the shift in energy. Energy shapes perception. Perception shapes opportunity. Opportunity shapes trajectory. And trajectory determines legacy. The internet may still be skeptical. It may still hold receipts. But even skepticism has softened into watchfulness. Watchfulness is where transformation either solidifies or collapses. This chapter isn't screaming redemption. It's whispering possibility. And possibility, especially in celebrity culture, is rare. Is this the beginning of a real growth era? Or are we watching a temporary calm before the next headline storm? Do you see genuine co-parenting progress? Or is this just strategic timing wrapped in soft lighting? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments, and don't sit on the fence. I want predictions. Not polite guesses. If you made it this far, you're not just here for noise, you're here for narrative shifts. So smash that like button like it owes you money. Hit subscribe like the next twist is already buffering. And turn on notifications so you don't miss a single pivot, surprise, or unexpected alignment. Because around here, we don't just replay headlines, we break them down. We question the optics. We analyze the energy. We track the patterns. Before they become the trend that the drama doesn't retire, the glow-ups don't come with guarantees and public perception. It flips faster than a viral clip. This is Celeb Sync, where the chaos connects, the growth gets tested, and every storyline is one move away from changing everything.